what's your goals in your career?
Um, I would really like to produce for more artists
Yeah.
as well as my own project, but I really do get a kick out of producing other music,
Sick.
other artists, especially other women.
Yeah.
I also really want to get into scoring for film. That's something that I'm really interested in.
Have you done any before?
I've just started composing for ads, which has been really fun. Been doing that for the past year. Um, and then I might have like a sci-fi horror thing coming up that I'm helping a friend on
Amazing.
for a film. But yeah, like I guess I'm more interested in like fulfilling myself creatively in many different lanes.
Yeah.
I don't just see myself as an artist
Mm.
with the Brux project.
Yeah.
There's so many things I'm interested in and that I want to work on and do. Um, yeah, you know, also with my original stuff, like I think I want to do an album.
Cool.
Maybe I'm ready to move on to something a bit bigger.
As
Like a
Brux?
larger body of
Yeah.
it's a larger body of work. Um, yeah,
What is it for
a lot of
you? What
collaboration.
is it for you that makes you want to do an album?
I think I want the space to kind of fully experiment
Yeah.
rather than feeling like I have to have um what's that what's that silly term? It's like just basically hit after hit after hit. Like
Yeah.
all fillers. No, what is it?
All killers, no fillers.
All killers, no fillers. Yeah. Yeah. I want fillers.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you on that.
Yeah, I just yeah.
Go on, carry on.
Yeah, like one album that really has resonated me since the first time I listened to it, and it still does, is the Subtract album from like 2011,
Yeah.
I think.
Great album.
You know, it just has so much dynamic and movement, and it really does explore so many different facets of electronic music.
Yeah.
And I just want the space to be able to do that. Yeah.
How would you, have you thought about how you would do that?
Yeah. I think what I want to focus on is like bringing other artists in and make it as collaborative as possible. Um, so like especially showcasing other female talent. That's something that's really important to me. And yeah, like, you know, in New York here, I've just met so many amazing musicians, experimental musicians.
Yeah.
Like people interested in like really wacky sound design, Foley stuff, you know. I just want to make something that's still at its core accessible. Doesn't mean it has to be pop, but you know, just something that just really satisfies me creatively.
Well, your music walks a line for me. And it always has like really interested me. And I was listening to some of it before we got on the podcast. And it's, I don't know how to describe it, which is the most perfect thing for me when it comes to music, because it's like you can't put it in a box. And I love that. It reminds me similar of like the Bloghouse days, but also like electro, and then also some really cool techno in between, and like just like you bring so many genres together. And I think realistically, like from an outsider's point of view, an album of that would be fucking amazing.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Because it's like,
I feel like yeah, sorry.
Go on.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like there's pros and cons to that with the music that I make. You know, I feel like at times it's hard for people to place me, and that trickles down to like being booked for shows.
Yeah.
Like, how am I perceived? Am I the right artist for that support? You know, but at the same time, like I don't know, I don't want to confine myself to one sound palette. It's hard. It's hard doing this kind of direction at such an early stage in my career when I'm still trying to get people in to into the project.
I think if I was to put my manager hat on, if I was wanting to be a manager, right, and or not even that, just as somebody else, like, we live in a world right now in the DJ world where people want like automatic fast hits. Like, it's like you're either massive already and you can just release what you release, or you're coming up and you're just using samples from old 90s R&B hip hop records to like gain any success. And that's fine. That's whatever that takes. But, and I'm not saying that's not people being artists. It's just, that's just a way they are finding a way to become more commercial, right? But I think the level of artist to where you're at, or to who you are as a person and as an artist, it feels like you have your own identity as an artist. And I feel like if you were to do an album, I feel like it would actually benefit more than doing singles. Because you always then have that body of work that people can go and be like, this is Brux. And I don't know, like, for me, it's like Chemical Brothers, Fatboy Slim, Moby, Daft Punk, Faithless, like all these like legend acts. They were all album artists, and they still are all album artists. Like, and I think there's something really special about that, but I think what happened is the commerciality and how streaming kind of changed things for all of us. That you have to hit that in 2 weeks, that first record, and if it doesn't get any love in the first 2 weeks, it's on to the next, blah blah blah. But when you're trying to like actually create lots of kind of genre bending music, and then you're releasing singles, it doesn't always make sense to people because they don't know what you're going to get, right?
Fully.
So I think like I think it would be fucking amazing if you did it and you were just an album artist. And like you can come up with interesting ways to release them. Like, you're not just going to drop like 15 records. That just wouldn't work nowadays. No one does that. But like, unless you're Taylor Swift or Drake. But like, I think like having an album would be amazing. And then, because from me as an outsider, I don't necessarily look at you as like the DJ producer. I look at you as somebody that's like more of an artist. I would rather see you and this is only me being selfish, I'd rather see you as like a live show and like you doing your vocals, you playing the keys, you doing drum machines or whatever you need to do. And that's a live thing. And I think that's way more interesting to me than you playing your records as a DJ.
Right. Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you bring this up because this is something that I think a lot about, and I have been thinking a lot about in the last 3 months, which I've found really difficult because I feel like I change my mind every day of like, oh yeah, I should do this. I'll go in that direction. Or, one thing that comes up for me as well is I ask myself, like, or just in general for all artists, is an artist only taken seriously in the industry once they release an album? What if an artist never releases an album?
Yeah.
Like, and how does that translate to dance music or like in pop? I feel like that's a thing.
Yeah.
But in dance, it's like a whole different playing field.
Yeah.
Which I don't really know the answer to. What do you think?
I don't think there is an answer. But for me, if I want to be very egotistical to myself, I think it's more of a legacy thing. And I look at artists that release albums way more higher up in the artist level than artists that just release singles.
Right.
I haven't released an album, so I'm still in that realm, but I will eventually do an album one day. And I will eventually want to be my goal is to turn into a full album artist where I'm not releasing singles at all. It's a process. What's your thoughts?
At times I do feel like, yeah, if I think about how I perceive other artists, other electronic artists, if I see that they've made an album, something inside of me thinks like, oh, okay, they're on track. You know, they have shit going on.
Yeah.
You know, there's a machine behind them.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean a major label, but you know, like there's intention. There's a long-term intention there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have done an album as another project years ago, and I fucking hated it. I hated the process. I think that's what's been pushing me back at times when I'm seriously considering doing a Brux album. I think of just how painful it was to do my Elizabeth Rose album, and you know, just I'm in a different place now, obviously, creatively. Like I can't compare myself to
you're not doing
6 years ago.
You're also not doing Elizabeth Rose for a reason.
No,
right? You're doing Brux for a reason.
Exactly.
So it's like taking your old relationship into a new relationship.
Exactly. It's not relevant.
No.
It's not relevant. So, you know, that's just my own insecurity. I need to let go of that.
Yeah.
But there is residual stuff there of memories of making an album.
Of course.
Once upon a time.
You're never going to get that away, are you, until you make an album.
Yeah.